Whether you're working on school-wide improvements, classroom discipline and management, or an intervention for an individual student, a comprehensive, multifaceted intervention has a greater chance of improving student behavior rather than a simple, single-dimensional approach. Within the Safe and Civil Schools approach, we use the STOIC acronym as a framework for designing and implementing comprehensive interventions. Within this presentation, I want to provide a range of examples of each letter of the STOIC acronym so you can see the breadth and depth of what school personnel learn to implement. Let's start with structure. A premier example of structuring a setting for success is Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Think about what visitors to Disney World in July experience. The climate is oppressively hot and humid, and it is more crowded than any other time of year. And yet the organization is so well structured that almost everyone has a very good time. Reflect even on how they structure lines. They make them compact and contained to eliminate cutting in line. They can provide shade, misters, and perhaps even air conditioning and entertainment while you're waiting, and more. All this just to reduce the degree to which your wait time might take away from your overall experience. The organization does everything possible to create a safe, positive, and enjoyable experience for you and to create a system of care. Now, what does this have to do with schools? Well, let's just think lunch lines for a minute. I've been in some middle schools of 900 students that are so well structured that no student is in a lunch line for more than 2 or 3 minutes. Now, I've been in other schools of 900 students in which students know if you are not the first one out the door at the end of third period, you'll be at the end of a 20-minute line. In the latter type of school, where no one has analyzed and restructured the lunchtime processes, an overall ambiance of competition, tension, and hostility can develop, affecting the entire climate of the school. Now think about a student with a tendency to have impulse control or anger management problems. The general tone of competition and hostility sets that student up to behave in ways that could force the school administrator to suspend or even expel that student. Now put that same student in the school where lunch has a calming rather than escalating effect, and that student's behavior is likely to be very different. Let's look at a couple of other cafeteria examples. We have found that if noise is a problem in an elementary cafeteria, placing students on only one side of the tables rather than on both sides, if the school has a large enough cafeteria to do it, will immediately reduce the noise in the cafeteria dramatically. Now a high school cafeteria example. One urban high school of about 2,100 students focused on their cafeteria as a first intervention. They chose this area because of the chaos and noise in the cafeteria and the number of students who did not come back to campus after lunch. For their intervention, they got more places for students to sit. They worked on increasing the efficiency of food servers and created another salad bar, thus reducing the length of lines and reducing wait time. After these restructuring elements, they served an average of 400 more students per day than before the restructuring and increased average daily attendance in their afternoon classes. These are just the tip of the iceberg of what our materials and services try to help schools implement. The presentation that you'll see on classroom level will provide examples of structural variables that the classroom teacher can implement. Let's move on to the T of STOIC, teach. This means that we explicitly teach students how to behave respectfully and responsibly in every school setting. A common error in schools is to make assumptions about what students should know, especially as they get older. The culture of your cafeteria needs to be defined and communicated by the staff, or it will end up being what the most powerful students want it to be. Some examples of teaching expectations at the school-wide level include lessons on common areas, halls, cafeteria, playgrounds, restrooms, lessons on important situations such as assemblies and substitute teachers, lessons on avoiding harassment and bullying, even lessons on how the system works, such as graduation requirements. Now let's look at teaching behavioral expectations at the classroom level. Kindergarten and first grade teachers have historically been very good at this, but the older the students get, there can be a tendency to think, these students are 10th graders now, they should know how to behave in a classroom. That does not recognize that there is no national pencil sharpener policy, and there never should be. Each teacher needs the professional latitude to set up their own unique classroom structure based on their own style, the needs of their students, the subject or grade that they teach, and their own past history of what works well for them. But if teachers are to have that latitude, they need to recognize that their classroom is idiosyncratic and unique, and therefore they need to teach students how to meet expectations. What might have been acceptable and encouraged by the student's previous teachers, you may view as a misbehavior in your classroom. We encourage teachers to think more like a basketball coach. Teach and practice the basics as much and as often as necessary. Do this for teacher-directed instruction, independent seat work, cooperative groups, tests, and every other major classroom activity and transition.